Hi guys, and welcome back to Morant's Rants. Plenty of good information, a little bit of motivation, a whole lot of truth, no financial advice. This is Connecting the Dots Part 36. One take session, no edits, no cuts. It's going to be about private equity, leverage buyouts on publicly traded companies, and we're going to talk about Party City. So I heard some stuff in the Discord. They were like, hey man, I hope Bed Bath & Beyond turns out like Party City. And I was like, what? Now I've read about Party City. I knew that it had gone bankrupt, and I knew that private equity was involved. Up until I did this research, I had no idea how much. But we'll look at the chart really quick, and then we'll talk about the stock and all the parallels. So, yes, they did pump it up just a couple of months ago, took it all the way to 11 cents, sucked everything out of it. You're now looking at fractions of 1 cent. If you want to play in the dirt, you can. But if you know the truth about this stock, it had a run, it had a peak, and that was during the same time frame that they were pumping AMC and GameStop. If you know, I always say that it's the swap idea, it's the offset because of what GameStop is and how everyone's against it. But this is what it looks like on this chart. This is something you would never buy. This is something that people would have you believe that it's great, but it's just because private equity's been in it since the beginning. But we're going to go ahead and go over that whole chart, and we're going to explain everything that ever happened, and I hope you guys enjoy the video. Now, excuse me, a little under the weather. Some of you guys know this part. But Party City's founder blames bankruptcy on private equity firm that jacked up prices. If you guys know, you can blame private equity all you want. Steve Mandel, who's the original founder, yes, he's upset that the company's going under, but what could he do and what can he say? If you know anything about this guy, they sold off the deal and they were owned by Amscam, okay? When they did this private equity deal, at the time, Mandel probably thought it was a great deal. But if you know anything about it, Thomas H. Lee Partners swept in 2012. They bought down around $2.69 billion is what it was actually going to do, investing only 22% in equity, which is normal for an LBO. They use other people's money. But when you look at Party City, the current CEO is Brad Weston, and he's blamed inflation and supply chain issues. Sounds kind of familiar, right? Like Bed Bath & Beyond, like AMC, everyone putting blame elsewhere, but not really looking at the numbers in the books and the leadership that got him there. So when you talk to the founder, Mandel, he believes that it all went south in 1999. And he says it right here. He lost control of the company when he founded in 1999. After 3 years after taking the company public, the CFO not tracking the inventory correctly, leading to the company not to file a 1998 audit on time. At the time, Michael Tannenbaum, took control of the business for a relatively low price after it was delisted. So who manufactured that outcome? Who actually allowed that to happen? That's what you need to start looking into before you just start casting blame today. But what we do with Connect the Dots is we tell you the whole story. So the whole story, back in 2009 or 2002 and 2003, all of what may be, here's your board of directors. And when you looked at it in 2002, what went down, I saw the whole board of directors and I say, who are these people? Some of them have passed, some are not around anymore. Remember, this is 20 years ago, but you need to know the history of your investment. First thing is, who was that CFO that couldn't do their job? It was this young lady here, Linda Sulik. And it sounds like she did her job because her job was to destroy the company from within. But look at what she did. And that's allegedly. Don't come look for me, lady. But Fairway Market, she doesn't work there anymore. But if you go down this list, Ann Taylor, there's private equity bankruptcy. Boom, she was a part of it. Tommy Hilfiger, we know private equity is involved. Party City at the time, back in those days, right? But before that, where did they all start from, guys? Federated. You guys know that damn well. Arthur Anderson as well, but Federated. Whenever you see Federated, just know that is private equity. That is leverage. That is exactly where it all comes from, guys. The tentacles that actually possess America right now. And I'm not just talking retail. I'm talking about everything business-wise. This is how private equity has come out from. And it's going to be from Macy's. It's going to be for Robinson's May, Federated, Von Marchi, May Company. The list goes on and on. But as long as Zales, you guys know this. If you're the original stock, then that's where it all comes from. So right here, Party City, they get a new CEO, and her name is Nancy Padot. I think that's how you say her name. Where does she come from? She's the former CEO and president of Gymboree. Guess who bankrupted Gymboree? Guess they filed for bankruptcy. Guess who had ties to it? Apollo. We actually have that, another connecting the dots. Michael Tannenbaum, his whole group here, he's from Bear Stearns. But remember that if you have ties to him, then you have ties to what was orchestrated over there at Party City in the late 90s, early 2000s. There's another board of director here at the time. This guy's known as one of the professors at the Harvard Business School, and he should be on the Mount Rushmore. His name, by the way, has since passed. His name was Walter J. Salomon. And of course, he wrote books and he wrote, these papers, it tells you right here. He authored several case studies, and they were about like JCPenney, Nordstrom's, LL Bean, Gap, and Dillard's, Liz Claiborne, Dunkin' Donuts, and Turo. So when you think about what he's writing, but then go ahead and look at the boards of directors that he actually sat on. The Neiman Marcus Group. We know that has direct ties to Apollo. Neiman Marcus' actual son, the founder of the company, sat on the board with Apollo, also ran Zell's Jewelers. Go look at Connecting the Dots Part 17. It'll tell you. Circuit City, bankruptcy. PetSmart, bankruptcy. I mean, what are the chances that the companies that these guys are touching are all bankrupt? Well, I'll tell you why, because that's how private equity works. They want to go bankrupt, then they want to bring you back public. I just had this one there for Jim Barry. Didn't matter. This is the next one where they're announcing the new people that were going to be in charge of the companies. I was looking at it. I think it said that she's part of Gymboree, and then other companies, department stores from way back in the day, Mervyn's, things like that. But I was just like, wow, this is all looking very familiar to me from what we've done in the past on Connect the Dots. But it got too familiar at one point. This individual was Tannenbaum. So Tannenbaum had his grips on this board, on the outcome of it. This individual still part of private equity and Goldman Sachs before, and that's Michael Gatto. We'll look right here. This individual, Jack Futterman, worked for Pathmark. If you don't know about Pathmark, guys, they did a deal with Rite Aid, who has since went bankrupt just last month. But of course, they sold 30 of their stores, of their pharmacies, to Rite Aid, and the private equity has a whole tie-in to that. So this individual here was part of that, and of course he passed away, so let's not throw his name in the dirt. Ralph Dillon, I think he even passed away, I didn't see. But let's look at the current CEO and chairman of the board for Brad Weston for Party City. I don't know if he's really the chairman of the board because they have a new one right now, but I know he's the CEO here, and he's from Party City, right? Where else could he be from? Boot Barn, he's still there at Boot Barn on the board of directors. That's private equity as well. Petco, the same company that's buying out Boot Barn is buying out Petco, private equity. Dick's Sporting Goods, I already showed you that partnership with private equity in the past, Connecting the Dots, but where did he originate from? Robinson's May Department Stores, and May Merchandising Company. Whenever you come from these retail companies, you're private equity because they bought them out of bankruptcy in 1994, and the deal's there. Petco. Remember I told you he's part of the Petco deal? Well, who's also part of Petco? CPPIB. And that's the Canadian Pension, I believe it's the investment board, something to that effect. And I'll tell you about it because I probably have it right here. And it tells me here. It tells me that the CVC Capital Partners and the Canada Pension Plan Investment Board, they are the largest contributors to the Apollo Fund. Every Apollo fund that they raise, Canada's in it. Canada, the Canadian Pension Plan Investment Board. And I believe them and Apollo have partnered up for like $15 billion worth of deals. Excuse me. So you can imagine this guy having all parts of the deal. And of course, Boot Barn, and I show you right here, Boot Barn is bought out by Freeman, Spalgi, whatever it may be. And who is that? Petco. Now I try to tell you, that's the partnership. Now they hired 2 independent directors to the board in 2020, and I'm going to go ahead and look at those guys, but when I do it, I'm not going to do it here. I'll just move on to the next piece because I broke down all the current board of directors. Mark Ellie, current board of director for Party City, right here, executive vice president of operations. Where does he come from, guys? Toys R Us. Do I have to explain it to you? Toys R Us, okay? Pay attention. Next one is going to be John Capella. John Capella, 12 years at Toys R Us. How do you think that went for them? And he comes from Toys R Us before that, Arthur Anderson, and PwC, which is Cooper, I believe, something like that. You know who they are, consulting firms. Norman S. Matthews. I have a problem with this guy. He's listed as the chairman at Party City. He's 90 years old. What the hell are you doing there, Norman? How deep does it run for you, Norman? We'll go ahead and go down this list for you guys so you guys can see what he's done from 1978 to 1988. Federated department stores. Boom, connect those dots. Next is he was at Children's Place. They went bankrupt. Sunco Inc. Oh, I know, 7-Eleven, right? And they bought out, 1,000 gas stations? There's other people here that work for 7-Eleven if you don't know the partnership. Toys R Us, Federated Department Stores. This guy is private equity. He's a dinosaur in the world of private equity. They must love him, Norman S. Matthews. Why would you pay a 90-year-old to make decisions for your company if his money's not involved? And it's not. He's just here. Jennifer Fleece. How you doing? She can't fleece me. What does she do? She held several positions. She's had previous positions at Apollo Global Management, direct from Apollo. What did she do? Shutterfly. Go watch Connect the Dots Part 4, I believe. I talked about Shutterfly and Apollo. She's done it all, guys. This is who they are. They plant their people in place for a reason. You want to get a part of Party City? I think not. I won't be touching it, but I'll let you guys decide. This next one's going to open. I know it is because my computer is lagging because of how many windows I have open. John Frascati. We'll talk about Hasbro in a minute because I know the connection between Hasbro and private equity. If you guys don't know the deal, this guy has an extensive background. Remember that Hasbro had a direct partnership with Toys R Us. Unlike Mattel couldn't do it because of the antitrust law. They said, Barbies are going to sell for $80 if that's the case. So they didn't let them do it. But Hasbro did have that connection. But in addition to that, Hasbro has a different connection to private equity, and I'll show it to you, to Apollo directly. This young lady, Michelle Milestone Schroff. How you doing, Michelle Millstone? You're here from Bed Bath & Beyond. You did 15 years of Bed Bath & Beyond. You worked for McKinsey & Company. You went to the University of Penn. You're from the Wharton Business School of everything. We know who you are. We know your private equity. We know you're the COO of Bye Bye Baby, and you're here at Party City. What a coinky-dink. We're doing great, guys. We're batting 1,000 right now. So the next one is going to be William S. Creekmore Meyer. I don't know how to say his name, but where does he come from? If you guys want to guess it with me, Serta Simmons Betting Company. And if you guys know the deal with them with Advent International, if you guys know what I'm talking about, I did a whole Connect the Dots on the members only section side of this because it was calling out Markets with the May and how they're pushing out PayPal. Advent has the executives from PayPal. That all stems from what Serta was. And that's where these guys come from, guys. It's private equity. I can't tell it to you any other way. Joel Asfine, he's as fine as it can be, bro. And where does he come from? McKinsey, of course. Asbury Automotive Group. I'll let you know who works for Asbury Automotive. I want to say it's Sean Goodman at AMC Movie Theaters, their current CFO. So all these guys have ties to private equity. Jim Conroy, Boot Barn. I just showed you the deal with Boot Barn that they have going on. But he also worked at Claire's, which was Apollo, Blockbuster, which was Icon and the crew. This is all private equity driven, guys. They have a whole lifeline of this. Stephen J. Collins, Advent, like I just told you, he worked for Advent International Corp, and that's going to be that connection through Serta. Now, I was talking about Hasbro, right? Hasbro has a direct connection with Apollo because if you know anything, Hasbro did a deal. I'm going to show it to you. It's down here somewhere. I'll find it. They did a deal not only with Lionsgate. By the way, guys, Lionsgate sold a portion of their company to Apollo and Roku in a deal worth a couple of $100 million. But we're going to go look at another deal they did, Hasbro. They did this one, Great Lakes Companies. And what they do, which launched Great Wolf Resorts. That's what they did, okay? Because the co-founder of that, Bruce, whatever this guy's name is, he's the one who came in and said, Hasbro, we can do this. Now, Great Wolf Resorts, if you guys don't know, that is directly owned by Apollo right there. Agreement, $703 million. So they have plenty of ties to private equity. That's all I'm trying to show you. For being investors in this company, I would be, aware of what's happening. I also saw this running out the door. James Harrison, he's part of the AmScam. Remember, their original investors into the company themselves, but they've actually promoted one of their guys at this time right here. This in 2016. Daniel J. Sullivan got promoted to CFO, and when he got it, it was because James Harrison, the CEO, said, "Yeah, we'll promote my buddy." Because remember, James Harrison used to be the CEO of AmScam as well. So you got to know these things. You got to pay attention to them. And everything else is done. I was looking at some other stuff. But other than that, what does it tell me? Conclusion. It tells me that Party City is not a stock I want to be in. With all the ties to private equity, it's crazy. Every single one. And they're actually direct to Apollo. Why would I even touch it? But it's part of the playbook, what they're doing. They want to cast blame elsewhere. They have these YouTube plant guys out here talking about it like it's a good thing until somebody like me comes through and breaks right through the FUD. So I avoid private equity. I avoid it like the plague. I run the other way. I buy GameStop. Guys, it's on the walls. The reason why I buy GameStop and why we talk about it frequently is because it has none of this. They do have a VC firm. They do have venture capitalist firms, and it might be Volution Capital and it might be RC Ventures, but it's more RC Ventures and independent people. No, it's not Volution Capital per se, but the independents come from that company. But Ryan Cohen is one person, and he owns the majority of this stock, and he's the executive chair of the board right now, and he's running it the way he wants to, and I'm with him. I support GameStop. I support what it is because I know that those private equity jerks, all those guys that we were just listing, they don't want what's best for you as a shareholder because they're not shareholders. GameStop. Can't stop, won't stop. GameStop. The rest of these cats, they don't know any better. Connect the dots. Peace.